Welcome back to Wickerson Studios. I just wanted to let everybody know that I wasn't letting you down. I know a couple of weeks ago I was going hard into this text that I bought, and I started this Python group that's grown incredibly fast, and it was on the Ghpython computer-aided geometric design Chinese text that I received in the mail and tracked down. And initially, it was simple enough for me to translate the Rhino script syntax scripts into Rhino Common. So that's exactly where I began and started this video series. So when we went in, and I'll show you what I did, I basically was able to rewrite in the Python script the base script for 3D points, the array of points, the conditions, and you can see over here some examples of what's being generated. And the reason I was changing it to Rhino Common and dealing with Rhino.geometry and other namespaces was so that I wasn't just cutting and pasting code out of the book and basically bringing it into here. The more I do this, though, I realize this is essential for anyone that wants to get into Rhino script syntax. 2D array of points, conditional arrays of points, random library, how to use the random library on points, how to use the math library, how to define lines and curves. And then all of a sudden, it starts to break down a little bit. And what I have is this caution of where I've had difficulty moving into Rhino Common because I realized I didn't know enough about it. I couldn't simply just replace Rhino script syntax with Rhino.geometry namespace. It's not that easy. And that's where I deviated for about 3 weeks. And I went down that path of going hard into Rhino development. I watched a lot of videos, got taken away into Visual Script and into plugins through Lon Newing's work. And believe me, I've been going full time on this, and you can see evidence in the videos that kind of deviated. So I did points. I then did vectors, and I was doing a lot better in vectors. It seemed pretty simple, except you'll find there's some strange things that come out using vectors that you don't end up with these vectors. You end up with these true-false values as they work or not. So that's where it started to break down again, and it wasn't as useful for me to make geometries out of these nodes if I went to Rhino Common, as opposed to staying in Rhino script syntax functions, which is basically what it is. It's really nice little scripts. So as I plugged through there, I did the best job I could dealing with moving objects by vector. All of these exercises are in this text, and I still felt I was creating my own new scripts from that based on that text. But as soon as I got over into the Ghpython course is what I'm calling this, the vectors from attractor points, as I became ever more dependent on the spiral graphics, the patterns from attractors, mapping numbers with trigonometric functions, rotation rectangle patterns, the more and more I found, oh my gosh, I have to go in and learn more and more about Rhino Common. So I was starting to find a really cool little script here, which allowed me to go in and write whatever import syntax I wanted and git source, and you could type in like Rhino syntax split rep, and then what happens is it ends up generating the file that comes out of it generates exactly what that script was. And I can't remember because it's been 3 weeks why this panel isn't reading it. Let me just think about that for a second. But needless to say, you can kind of run through and you can output and bring in and see the script and the making up of the Rhino script syntax, or at least the logic in it, and then you can try and translate it over to Rhino Common again. Well, I continued with that, and I'm not sure why my page is being difficult. Maybe I'm touching something. Oh, this is strange. Shift. What has happened? I must be running something. I know, I'm running too much. Yeah, I think I actually went in, probably played a script, which I shouldn't have done. Or I've got so many Python scripts open right now that it's just crashing out on me. It's not allowing me to see anything. Give me 1 second. This will be okay. I put it all on. I've had to close out everything again, so maybe I'll just open this up as I was processing through. So basically, I got back into here and I was doing the vector from attractor points. The yellow I was having a little trouble with switching over to Rhino Common, so I stayed. The green is where it's running in Rhino script syntax, or I got it to work within Rhino script syntax. But I've had to leave off all this script because they're getting into some pretty cool loops, and running all these things at once is not a great idea. So they're all on disable right now. So I have spiral graphics, pattern with attractors, remapping numbers, trigonometric functions. I think I already covered that, the vectors, but this was really trying to go in and rewrite it again with Rhino Common as best I could. But once again, I kept being pushed to go here. Go in here and find out like the Python script for add annotation off of the Rhino Common developer pages and namespaces. I've got another example of it there. And those scripts are coming right out of Steve Bear, that if I jump on here, and I talked about that, quite a bit. I'll just pull it in, basically jumping into Rhino Developer and going into the samples that are available here. And there it is, the add annotation, and you can go to Python. And you can take that script, and by changing a little bit of it, the script context to Rhino doc, you can send it to the viewport. And that's something I was getting into the habit of doing. Uh, that's getting a little confusing, but obviously it was making a little sense to me. I think if I go in here and take a look, yeah, I've had to put in Rhino doc dot and active doc to send that to the viewport so I can start building these very interesting programs. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was building geometries that actually, if I load this one up, which is kind of fun, enable, and shrink this back down, you'll see what I'm kind of talking about. Yeah, it's a script that's going to run the text that's in there, Rhino Common. But what's nice is if it's dependent upon a point and you've written a very interesting script, I actually went so far as to make them little tiny programs that when I started moving that point around, it would just keep baking in this. So you could build a geometry from, say, a text. Hopefully that makes a little sense. Anyway, I continued. I went into the curve section, and I had to state a curve domain, divide curve, spiral or on curve I was having a little bit of trouble with. All the way through to the brick forms. And I'm just plugging through the geometries. And if there's two in here, like brick wall here and brick wall here, one is more dependent on RhinoScript, one is more dependent on trying to do it in Rhino Common. If I have success, well, then I just move forward with it. So if I had this one, let's just say enable. Let's see if we've got anything with that one. It's obviously dependent upon a curve. So if that script's running, it may be from the textbook itself in Rhino script syntax, but you can see when I run that and just import that curve into here, set one curve, it should produce that brick wall. So it's running pretty well. And then the other one, we'd have to just wait and see if that one was running as well. Let's take this one to, take all these items and just put them to preview disable. And we'll take these ones and run them to, run these guys to enable and see if we have the same lock. Yeah, so that one's running as well. So there may be subtleties and changes in there, but I was having a play back and forth. And now I'm hard into moving on to page 100. I'm going into the scripts with surface, which are pretty exciting. So let me just jump back out of here, go into disable. And now, because these scripts are getting pretty interesting, I just produced this one for the sake of baking that over into Revit 2021. So now I don't mind actually going in and using the scripts. I don't have a surface generated here right away, so just let me generate one right now. Pull it over, pop this into maybe shaded. Let's just do a rebuild. Hopefully it's low numbers. 10, no, we want to do something smaller than that, 4 and 4, just to have a smooth transition after an edit. Put my points on. Here we go. I'll pull up a couple of them here in this direction, this one in this direction. We've got a nice little surface there that if I just grab the surface and pop it into here, set one surface and put this one on, I think I was just doing a basic script, and I'm quite happy now realizing I have, I don't know how many pages left, 200 pages left of scripts in Rhino script syntax, that maybe it is important that I go in here and start learning the basic systems of how to divide domain surfaces, how to actually get into all of the parameters that are involved in surface curvature, and learning a little more about those when it comes to minimum curvature, Gaussian curvature, mean curvature. And so if I can get that in my head, that's going to be kind of back and forth, coming at scripting and doing plugins from two angles, from Rhino script syntax of Ghpython into something I can use as a plugin in Rhino Common, and then also coming from C# and Visual Script to try to produce those. So I've narrowed the play field. I've actually see the framework of what I'm trying to work in. But I am becoming more and more dependent on these scripts. So instead of plagiarizing those and just taking intellectual property and giving it up, which is not what I want done to my own things, you can see here that I've got this funny little device that I made. It's not too exciting. It's a rounded little nib knob on a pretty simple surface that I can play with the vectors and play with where on the surface that is. And it jumps off a little bit here, probably because of trimmed or untrimmed surface at play. I'm not really sure geometrically what's happening, but I've really kind of been able to shoot that off into the distance beyond where that piece is. But that's what I'm trying to do to the script, so I don't end up with just a simple script like this. You'll see there's no Rhino common in there. I haven't even started putting in the maths. I did change it a little bit with the divide A and divide B parameters division, so I could actually make that parametric in the node. So as long as I do a subtle change, these are simple enough scripts that you don't have to do major things to kind of transform them. The main goal will be to be able to, and hopefully this doesn't freeze me up again, take all these scripts, put them on enable, uh, jump in here to view extends all, and now you can see kind of what's happening here. And I know I'm not on a rendered mode. I wonder what would happen if I got there. There's the whole box structure. I think render's kind of cool because this weird optical illusion happens with this pattern and this script in render, and I kind of like that. But anyway, I'm playing around with it. The whole book will translate into one GH script for me and reference for me. So I'm not going to provide this on GitHub. I'm not here to just give up the scripts online. You should go out and get the book. You should learn how to translate it into the Python nodes and learn how to script and write your own scripts and play with them. You can see in here I've changed quite a bit from what was actually there because I'm playing with random and a few other points. So I've kind of claimed these as my own. And in the end, you build an entire library, an entire file that you can come out and hopefully, just like the way you were grabbing functions in RhinoScript syntax, you're actually grabbing whole Python nodes, Ghpython nodes, which are technically clusters, but they're scripted clusters to what you have to do. And when I start to put those together, you kind of get this sense of object-oriented programming in a sense that I'm building bigger and bigger things as I go. And here we go. I'm having trouble with the script already. Let me just see if no, it's crashing. Once again, it's crashing out on me because it's trying to run too much. And you'll see here, as soon as I activate them all, it goes into this infinite loop. And I shouldn't have done it. I did it before. But 11 minutes in, I'm still 100% committed to this. I'm very excited about it. I'm going back into it. And it's only because, getting off track just to learn something else, I've got to stay somewhat focused on this. And this group I did create so we could look at the Ghpython node, and I'd like to see how people come up creatively in applying these and seeing what they can do. But once again, I'm kind of bugging out here. So I'm going to wrap this up, and I hope you found it kind of helpful and interesting. I know I'm definitely passionate about it. I didn't even think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Let me delete and just let's go over to something. Yeah, there we go. I had a curve change that was just altering that. But some nice scripts producing some cool geometries, and I've got a little mathematical helix that I've been able to play with in certain ways within the Python script. So I don't think I'm going over to the C. Like I'll stay definitely in the maths to the Python node. I may dip into C# if there's something I have to do there that I can't do in Python, because even the developer site, if you take a look at it, some examples don't have the Python samples made yet. So as you get into the samples and you run down here, Steve Bear hasn't turned everything into Python. But if it's there, you definitely, and I just found I needed to know a little bit about C#. If you can get into reading this and you can break it down more than the dependency on the Python, and there's an example of one that's not made up yet, no example available. So object color, you definitely have to get into C# and start to break this down and see how you're writing it. And I think I'm getting closer to understanding that, and definitely learning a little more about the APIs and going into Rhino Common and being able to source, what's this taking so long, go into Rhino Common and be able to track down exactly what you want to do. And believe me, Rhino geometry is just one namespace you want to be getting into. So I'm getting into a pool of people that really know their stuff. I'm loading up Windows and I'm working in Windows, Rhino's work in process. And I'm having fun with Revit. And I think I'm doing creative things with development and research that nobody else is doing, even though I'm dependent on synthesizing different things I'm learning at the same time. It's not hard to be creative. You just have to have the confidence and confidence, to just go in there, commitment to see what you can come up with. And yeah, things bug out and slow down, and you can embarrass yourself. But one thing I've proven with these videos online is I have no problem embarrassing myself. I have nothing to lose. I mean, it is exciting. It's still very playful, and I think I'm hitting this with the same passion when I came to metal casting and all of the experimentation I did for 25 years. This has been fun to get in here, and you can see all the bugging out on everything that's here. So I'm just going to take it to disable, make it a much happier site. And there's my original little curve. What's going to happen? There's still elegance and simplicity and beauty there. So I hope with all the people I've met online and the webinars I'm getting involved with, very excited about the future of what's happening here. So 15 minutes. That's about my limit on videos, even though I could go forever now that I pay for the Screen-O-Matic. All right. Take care. Thanks for watching.